Hey, surprise, everybody. You have no driving gloves here. And all three of us are here for a change. I think Derek and I kind of gave our excuses last week, and I made a further excuse at the beginning of the episode. We do apologize. It has just been a mess of a summer or spring for all of us. Like I said, I'm in the process of moving, finally getting the new studio set up, the new shop set up. I know, like we said, Derek's been busy. I've been busy, and Will's here to kind of. We're going to let him do his discussion of how busy he's been traveling and such. And I think you're going to see us get busy here in a couple of weeks again because of the power tour coming through and some things like that. Maybe we'll get some excitement out of it. I'm not sure where we sit on any of that, but Will, like I said to you in the pre-show, Derek and I kind of gave excuses last episode. Where you been? What you been up to? If it's not too car related, let's not bore everybody. But what's been going on?
Uh, all right. So honestly, guys, I just didn't want to listen to y'all talk. I mean, if you really want to know the truth.
Well, feeling is mutual there, but
No, been to a couple of different shows. Went to the Atlanta Motorama, which is a really, really, really good show. It's a laid back show. There's a lot of these shows we go to that are, you know, there's a lot going on, and we're competing, and so you're kind of on edge a little bit. Where this show is, pretty good friends with Chaz Sidney, who's the promoter of that show, and he invited us over to bring our trailer and set up, and so that's what we did in Atlanta, and that's a really, really good deal. They got an autocross set up, a barbecue cook off.
they really
Um,
need to do that show on Friday too. And then for me, I like going to stuff in Atlanta on Fridays. I don't know why, but my hat's in for let's make it a 3 day event.
yeah, I'm a I'm becoming a fan of these 2 day events. Personally, I like the Friday Saturday events better than the Saturday and Sunday events. Um,
Totally
generally,
agree.
we're, generally we're not as close, like as we are to Atlanta to these shows that we do. So, you pack up and head home Sunday afternoon. I mean, you're 3, 4 o'clock in the morning getting home, and I'm the type of guy when it's over, I'm going home. I'm not spending another night and driving during the day. You pulling a 48-foot trailer, driving at night is the way to go. You don't have near the traffic on the roads. It's easier to navigate. It's easier to get in and out and get fuel. I mean, just all the way across the board, it's just easier traveling at night. Um,
No, I'm
so,
totally about that Friday Saturday stuff. It's so much easier and more conducive to the work week. I think take
yep.
Thursday off, do the show Friday, Saturday, like you said, drive home, have Sunday to recuperate, and be right back at it on Monday because it really sucks starting a work week on Tuesday. I think most of us will agree with that. But
Yeah, or just yeah, exactly, or just war slap out. When you get there on Monday morning. Good guys actually done that in Nashville this past weekend, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. That is the first Good Guys Nashville show that I've missed. I think this was the 13th year in a row, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it just due to the workload here at the shop. So yeah, going to some shows, and I've actually bought a house. So been moving and packing and unpacking and all of that. Everybody knows that's a big pain in the butt. Doing it all myself, so um, that's taken a lot of time away as well. So there's my excuses. um, Hopefully everything's kind of getting back to normal for me. I think the next show that I'll be going to will be in Des Moines, Iowa, which is in July. So for the next month, I should be pretty routine as far as everything goes.
Like I said, I think what are we, about a month off from the Hot Rod Power Tour? I've got a lot of people contacting me and seeing what kind of involvement I'm going to have with it, what kind of involvement the day job has with it. I think Derek's having a couple of internet connections, so I think he's going to join us sporadically as he can. Yeah, well, the Power Tour kicks off just down the street from you, doesn't it? Just down from you. Yeah, you're a little bit choppy tonight, there, Derek. We're gonna try to live with it. I guess it goes from Bowling Green, and then they little jaunt to Coker Tire, right, and then to the Hoover Met, which seems to be almost a standard stop anymore on the Power Tour. I don't know why Birmingham gets so lucky every year, but we'll get it.
Well, I want to add something right quick before you move on. To all of our listeners, chances are they're going to be having a kind of a back road route to Birmingham from Chattanooga, and if they did a similar route that they did, I think it was 4 years ago, you're going to be coming about 3 miles from my shop. So that day we'll have. I know we're going to have some visitors, and all of our listeners are more than welcome to stop by and see the shop and see our projects and everything else. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. It's not going to be an open invitation for everybody. I don't want, I don't know how many thousand of people do the power tour, but people that follow us on social media, and my friends that from the West Coast that are doing the power tour, they're going to stop by as well. So
say I'll throw in too that when you guys are heading out of Hoover, heading for the Atlanta area, you drive right by the Barber Motorsports Complex there, where it exit 140 off of I-20. So you literally within 2-3 miles of us too, and can't say for sure if the museum's doing anything or not. We're looking at a couple of options: staying open late the day of the power tour and open early, because I think the overnight is in Birmingham. So you have an option to hit at either time. Like I said, we're still trying to put those things together, and we'll say, amazingly, it's the year for no driving gloves. That seems Derek's dropped, having some internet, like I said, and has dropped for the show. So we'll throw out that you're just a couple of miles down from him too, and the National Corvette Museum. So I don't know if I'm going to head up to Bowling Green or not, and follow him to Birmingham. I've got a whole bunch of logistics and, again, being busy, but you should be able to catch up with the no driving gloves. What do we call ourselves? Hosts at some point during the event.
I'm just kind of looking at the route that they're sending you from Chattanooga to Hoover right quick. Oh yeah, you're going to be. Actually, believe it or not, you will be coming right by our shop on US Highway 278. I mean, you will be blowing by Big Oak Garage. So if you look at the official route between mile 99.4 and 120.8, we'll be probably about 118. No, it won't be that much. About 110. Your 110th mile, you'll be at Big Oak Garage. I mean, there will be no detour, nothing. I mean, it is coming right by the shop. So there you go. If you follow the back roads, the back road route, the official route, you'll be coming right by the shop.
And we'll have one of those little hairdryer, 20-foot tall used car men dancing around his entrance, so that you don't miss the shop.
That's a pretty good idea.
I think you can probably rent one for $50 for the day.
There you go. That's what I'll do right there. So you'll come down Highway 9, hit Highway 278, and our shop is in between Piedmont and Gadsden on US Highway 278. So you won't even have to make a detour.
That's kind of cool. Kind of cool. You're on the route without paying to be on the route.
Yep, I'm gonna have to make a couple of phone calls about that. That's pretty neat.
Well, like I said, I think already Derek's dropped for the night. When the weather's bad, he's got a pretty spotty internet. So, guess we can't get all three of us together quite yet. Maybe we'll shoot for that next week. But we'll go on with, we know where Will's been, what he's been doing. We've chatted a little bit about the power tour, and some of that's, like 3-4 weeks off. Check it out if you're here in the Southeast. It's running all the way down to Birmingham, and then they're headed towards North or South Carolina, something like that. So pretty encompassing route. But I think we were going to try, and Derek kind of, he admitted, I'm a museum curator. All I ever use is a pencil and a computer. So he's interjected already. And Will and I were going to probably talk a little bit about some of the tools that may make our lives in the shop easier. And I'm thinking more from a technician standpoint because, 40% of my job is pushing paper at a computer terminal. But I've been out in the shop trying to wrap up some projects. We got a couple new projects coming in. I know our main car buyer's out, I would say next week, but when you're listening to that this week, looking at a couple of new projects to come into the shop. So don't know if the deals will close or not on those, but there's a couple of potential new restorations that could be coming in. And in the 4-wheel variety, it seems we have plenty of 2-wheel restorations, but I don't quite understand 2-wheel stuff. So, Will, you kind of chose the topic. What tool were you kind of thinking or what? Go ahead and set the flow or set the mood for the evening.
Well, I'll probably the most used tool or piece of equipment in the shop is our lifts. It would be really, really hard to do what we do without a 4-post lift. We're in a great need of a 2-post lift, and I know there would be something on it at all times. Just really don't have a really good spot for one. But our 4-post lift is used. There's never nothing on it. There's always something on it, whether it's just pulling it on there to do something small or final assembly on like the Dart that we built. That car was completely assembled on the lift. So that's probably the single most handily tool in the shop that gets used the most, and it would be really, really hard to do what we do without it. And believe it or not, it was the very first piece of equipment that was put in our shop when we built it about 11 years ago. So
let me ask you on that lift, because it's something that gets talked about quite often, and that's that 2 and 4 post, argument. Which do you think is better? I mean, I have my opinion. I've worked in a shop that actually had a 2-post lift, a single post in ground lift that had this kind of the X member that went under the car. And then we had an alignment rack, which effectively was a 4-post lift. It wasn't used for alignments anymore. It was used as a 4-post lift. And so I've been in one shop that's had all 3 types of lifts to choose from, up to 2-post lifts, to 4-post lifts, to backyard buddy type 4-post lifts. And I know where I want to be and what my thoughts are on it. What do you think is actually the most usable? Thinking maybe if you were putting it in your personal shop or your garage, not necessarily a commercial application.
In my opinion on that, definitely a 4-post lift. It makes it a little bit harder to change wheels and tires. But other than that, I'm a 4-post lift guy. Don't get me wrong. I really like 2-post lifts as well. But if you have a 4-post lift in your car, in your home garage or in your shop, the only really thing that's a pain in the butt to do is change wheels and tires. It maybe cleaning your wheels and tires if your car sets really low and you got to rotate them, but you just roll it back a little bit, roll it forward a little bit, and you're good to go. So what I think's better overall would be a 4-post lift. They're a little more stable. They're easier to get a car on. Yeah, they take up more room. But to me, I'm a 4-post lift guy, and actually the lift that we have, it's what's the brand on it? I can't remember. Anyway, but it's a good high quality lift that actually has skates on it that you can put under it and move it around the shop, and it's really not that bad to move when you don't have a car on it. When you have a car on it, it's really tough to move. But yeah, I'm a 4-post guy.
Now, see, and that's exactly where I'm at too. Is I think the 4-post lifts, if especially for the home shop, home garage, you have to make a commitment to where a 2-post lift goes and bolt it to the ground. Right. And they're always every car you load, you've got to get down on your knees. You've got to adjust the arms. You've got to hope you get it. Or you raise it up a couple inches, make sure it's balanced, and then go ahead and raise it. And yes, doing wheel and tire work is much easier on a 2-post lift. Never will deny that. Doing brakes and suspension work easier on a 2-post lift. But the 4-post lift, absolutely everything else is so much easier for storing a car or whatever. Like Will said, you just drive up on the thing and the car's set. You don't have to worry about making sure you've got the jack points and the lift points, because the lift points are a lot of times different than the jack points. You don't have to worry about if you're pulling a motor out of a car, if that's changing the weight distribution and all of a sudden it becomes a little bit light on that 2-post lift. It just, to me, the 4-post is the way to go. Most 4-post lifts either have jacks that are built into them to get that axle off the ground if you have to do wheel and tire work, or if you have to do brake or suspension work. And then, since I feel we talk to a lot of hobbyists on this podcast more than shop people, and unless you own your own shop, you really don't get the input. But I think at the 4-post lift, like I said, especially at the home shop, because of what Will said, if you don't have a car on it or whatever, you can move it. You can put it on the other side of the garage. You can put it outside. You can, you've got a couple other, a couple of things. If you're storing, say, your Corvette on the top of it and your Corvette or your Porsche under it, and your garage only has a 8-foot ceiling or so, you're going to barely squeeze both of those cars on it, but you can then roll the lift into the driveway, provided you have a flat driveway, and use the full height of the lift to then work under your car for a day if you're going to do a day of oil changes or something. And then you just put the lift back in the garage and you keep your HOA happy and you keep everybody happy. It just I know that's one of the big things I've always seen with the 4-post lifts, is they're just so diverse and so versatile. And like I said, they're so much easier and safer, and kind of stuff I work on, the old race cars, tube frame stuff, monococks and that. A lot of times you sit there and wonder, is this really the place I need to put a 2-post lift on it? And the shop I work at, we only have a 2-post lift, and I keep pushing them. Let's get a 4-post. We've got room. We've got money. Let's go ahead and get a 4-post. We need one. But so I'll agree with Will on that one. So we've talked the 4-post lift to death now.
Well, and let me add something else too. Is I have people come in my shop a lot, and they see our lift, and they're like, "Oh, that thing's not bolted down to the ground," and I'm like, "No, why does it need to be?" "Oh, that's not safe." And I look at them, and I'm like, "You ever worked underneath a car on jack stands?" "Well, yeah." I'm like, "Okay, this has twice the pad of one jack stand on the ground. with a safety on it. You're a lot safer with a 4-post lift, with a safety not bolted to the ground than you are jacking your car up and putting it on jack stands. And when I say that, they're like, "Well, yeah, I didn't really think about that," but it is. And if you don't like where it's at, we put these skates underneath it, let it down. It picks the post up off the ground, and you move it where you want to move it. So that's one of the things that, like you said, it's so versatile. You can move them wherever you want to move them. The second biggest thing in the shop that we use is obviously our sheet metal shaping equipment. I know most of your home hobby shops are not going to have that. They don't quite get as in depth as we do, but there are some lesser expensive sheet metal shaping tools out there. There's a company out there, they make a little hammer called the Mini Max, and just little things like that you can buy for your home shop. You plug them in the wall, and just you can make just about everything that we make with our big hammer. And they're pretty much a glorified bead roller is what they are, but you can do a lot more complex shapes and stuff like that with it.
A lot of people think that sheet metal equipment is way out of their budget or is just too specialized, but you can get into, like you said, the Mini Max, or even one of the Jet 3-in-1 machines. It's a shear and a brake and a roller, and it's only 36 inches, but you have to consider what most people are doing in their home. You might be doing a whole restoration. A lot of times you're just making small little panels, or you're making a custom piece, or a scoop, or I'll be honest, a vase for your wife or something. It allows you to do a lot of things for $1,000 or $1,500, and go, oh wow, it's $1,000, $1,500. But I mean, that's what a good entry level welder is going to cost you. It's what a good compressor is going to cost you. I mean, yeah, you can always say, well, I got my compressor at Harbor Freight for $4.99. Well, you can also go get a 3-in-1 machine at Harbor Freight for $4.99. So it's what you want to pay for, and they do come in handy. It's amazing. And I've been tossing around getting one for my wood shop, because there's sometimes a little bit of woodworking that I want to integrate some metal work, and it's kind of nice that I have the ability to sneak into the metal shop at work and take care of some of that. But a lot of times, I can't bring this piece of furniture in to get the exact fit in that. So I kind of need one at home. And, in the same vein, and when it comes to cars, you get yourself, I think, one of the other nice tools to have around, kicking around. And I hesitate suggesting it, because if you don't know how to use it, you can get severely hurt, or you can hurt someone. But that's a welder. And, you can get into a decent, Lincoln or Eastwood or something, entry-level welder in the $300 to $500 range for a MIG welder with, gas shielding. You can get a little bit cheaper if you wanted to use a flux core wire or something. But what you end up saving on the welder, you end up losing in labor cleaning up your welds when you use flux core. And some of the TIG machines now are in that $1,000 and $1,200 range. And that gives you just such a diverse tool that you can use for, again, so much. I look at how many things you need to do on a car, various brackets and bolts and fixing things, or especially doing a full build. It's just always nice to have one kicking around. And then the number of, again, the little things you can use it for around the house. You can get too focused on, I got to put pans in my car. Okay. And then what am I going to use a welder for? Well, there's always something. Your wife wants a pot and pan rack, or you want a custom shelving unit for the man cave to put the TV on, or you want, there's lots of things you can always use that for. And your buddies are always going to want something welded.
Oh. That's what I was going to say. Your buddies are going to be there. Um, and you're right, John. We couldn't do what we do without welders. Um, we're more of a TIG welding shop. I think we have 5 TIG welders and 1 MIG welder. We don't MIG weld a lot, but we do a lot of TIG welding. I mean, they're pretty much when the fab guys get here, they're turned on and they get turned off when they leave, and sometimes they leave them on when they leave. um, you know, the welders are definitely a must have in a shop, and you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive ones. I'm a big believer in TIG welding. It's just a lot cleaner. Um, it is a little bit more difficult than MIG welding, but once you get the hang of it, I mean, you can essentially go. You're not supposed to, but you can go TIG welding a pair of flip flops and shorts. It's not throwing sparks everywhere. The welds are clean, especially sheet metal. You go to hammering on a MIG welded piece of sheet metal, it's just going to break all the crap. Where a TIG weld is a lot more forgiving when that goes. You can actually shape a TIG weld. So um, and and you can weld everything with a TIG welder plus that you can with a MIG welder. You can weld stainless. You can weld aluminum. I mean, you can weld anything. Just change the setting on your machine a little bit and grab a different rod and keep on rolling.
You got that diversity with it, and like I was just ending with, and you picked up with, it's like having a trailer. If you have one, all your friends have one.
Yeah, oh
And
yeah.
and the nice thing about it, say a TIG over a MIG, and it's where I kind of said in the beginning of my little endorsement of welders, anybody can MIG weld. Or at least that's what they say. Anybody can take a MIG welder, pull the trigger, and put a pile of gloop on a two pieces of metal and think they're stuck together. And you can grab them and you can twist them and they don't come apart until you're driving down the road and vibrations over the last 30 miles have broken that weld because you didn't know how to do it. It's hard to, excuse me, but half-ass a TIG weld. It's either welded or it's not. A MIG weld, it's kind of easy to hide subpar work. It does look subpar, but you don't realize it. So, I think they're in addition to the cleanliness and the nicety of the TIG welding, and don't let Will steer you wrong. If you TIG weld in flip flops and shorts, you're going to have a sunburn. So it's not a healthy thing to do. We don't encourage that, but he's right. You're not going to be running, you'd be there in your shorts and stuff, and you're not going to be running around because all of a sudden certain parts of your anatomy have been touched by hot molten metal.
Well, I'll tell you another thing in the shop that it 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 may not make a lot of sense to people, but our work benches are lifesavers in our shop. We have really nice metal tables with thick, at least 3/16 thick top. Some of them are thicker, and the awesome thing about them, they're built heavy duty. If you got a motor and transmission that you want to clean up or whatever, man, you can throw it up on the table and you're not bending down and working on them. And they've got vices, mounted to them that are rigid and they don't move around. You can actually weld jigs on top of them, like if you've got something that you got to make multiple pieces of. You weld certain points and you hit your certain points, and a really really good sheet metal or metal table is worth its weight in gold when you're doing some sheet metal fab and stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of stray from the topic there, and I'll admit, horizontal surfaces are the most valuable things in any shop. We used to joke at one of the early shops I was at, every horizontal surface had something on it. It was the most valuable piece of real estate in the shop. It got to the point after being there for a year and a half, we'd go to do something like take the hood off of a car, and experience taught me you got to pull that hood off. You better know where we're going, because so many times we pull a hood off and start walking and have nowhere to put it. And it got to be the point we go, okay, let's take this hood off. And we all walk there. We'd all, each get on our corner and go, and then I would go, okay, where are we going to put it? And then we would go clear a place and then come back to the hood and move it. So horizontal surfaces in a shop are extremely valuable. And then I'm going to sidetrack us a little bit because of the shop that I'm in. And everybody thinks it's the coolest thing in the world to have. And it's, to be 100% honest, in restoration and one-off, I would assume street rod building, it's absolutely worthless. It's cool, but there's no reason to have it. And that's our CNC machine shop. We have a lot of CNC machines, and it's not gonna knock the manufacturer, because it doesn't matter who made them. Unless you're gonna make 5 or 6 of something, you don't need a CNC machine. If you're, maybe if you need 2 and need them to be 100% precise, exact, you don't need that CNC machine. It's easier and faster just to do it yourself. Maybe not quite as precise. I'll deviate a little bit and say our water jet is probably one of our most utilized tools. Or, you can have a laser cutter or a water jet. Some of the new CNC routers will do aluminum in that. And, fabbing stuff that way and using it to cut sheet metal or metal, it works really well. But as far as, a CNC mill or lathe and that, I would say our South Bend lathe and our Bridgeport mill get used 10 times as much as our big CNC stuff does, because it takes so long to sit down and write the program and then make a test part out of some composite material or foam just to make sure the program's written right so you don't crash the machine, and then make sure that piece fits the machine and everything. It's just kind of better to know your measurements and go after it on that manual stuff. So people always go crazy when they're on tours and that, and they go, oh yeah, we got a CNC machine shop and it sounds great to talk about. To be honest, it sits idle most of the time. And it's like I said, the Bridgeport and South Bends that get used all the time.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. As far as my shop goes, if we had a CNC machine, a CNC mill, it would run all the time. We have so much stuff machined, away from here. We use a couple of different shops around the country to make stuff for us that it would be running. I'm not going to say all the time, but it'd be running a lot. Now we do use our Bridgeport a lot. And we've got a little lathe that will be coming in the next couple of weeks, but it would be something that we used a lot. Now, in a home shop, no, you do not need a CNC machine. You can pick up a Bridgeport with a digital readout and do just about everything you can do on a CNC machine. It's going to take you a long time, but if you only need one of them, it doesn't really matter. But I know we would be using if we had one, it would run a lot. I can't remember exactly how many pieces we had CNC machined out for this 42 truck that we're building. But it's on up there. It's on up there.
Well, I guess I'll stand corrected, but I'm going to say on the restoration side, I don't really think you need it. But maybe on that street rod side, and you guys do seem to like your billet aluminum and billet titanium and your billet.
The crazy thing about it, there's so many billet parts on this truck but none of them really look billet. You know, the way that we designed them and had them machined, they almost look like a modernized version of a cast piece, you know. So they're almost they're cast looking, you know. They have radius corners. They don't have ball mill machine marks all in them and crap like that. So and that's kind of a really hot thing right now is having stuff custom machined but making it look as if it was cast as an original custom part, like, you know, something that was made in the 60s or something like that. So, you know, one of the things I'll send you a picture of, John, you can post it on the social media, was the pieces that go on top of the headlight buckets, and we incorporated them and made them the turn signals and running lights. But it really looks like uh, an old part versus a new machine part. So, but yeah, we'd use a CNC machine a lot.
Okay, I'll stand corrected, because the next one I'd go to, though, that I think is really handy in a shop that not a lot of shops have, and I guess the new term is additive machining, or CNC machines like we've talked about, or removal machining, or subtraction machining. The additive machining is basically 3D printing. You add material and create things, and it's one of my personal hobbies right now, is playing with 3D printers and stuff. And the way I see that integrating into a shop, and that even in a home shop, because these machines are getting to you can get a good 3D printer in the $500 to $1,000 range, and those machines aren't changing weekly. You know, one of the bad things you hear about 3D printing is, whatever machine it's like the old PC thing. Whatever machine you buy today is obsolete in a week. Now, I've been paying attention to these things for about 2.5, 3 years, really close, and nothing's changed in the affordable price range. That what I want to say, $500 to $1,500, $2,000 range. The big things are some XYZs come out with a color one, where it basically, as it prints, it uses inkjets to color the 3D print as you print it, and things like that. Dual filament, triple filament things. But overall, the little things you can do to create patterns, to create things you can cast or mold, to create, I've seen people make, dash bezels to fit certain, double DIN receivers or single DIN receivers, or their own shift knobs, or their, own pedals for their cars, any little things like that. Wire clips and looms and spark plug things. All that can be done on a 3D printer fairly simply. And all of us, it's a lot cheaper than trying to have your own custom wire looms made, or your own spark plug, what I want to say, wire clips and things like that. So that would be a tool that, if you're not into it, don't let it pass you by. Go ahead, get a cheap one and start playing with it. I mean, even the Microsoft has I can't remember what it is. It's not what I use for software, but Microsoft has a free 3D modeling software. You can model in SketchUp. You can model in Fusion 360 is available for the consumer. If you're not using it commercially, you can get that for free, and that's one of the most popular CAD programs, so that you can create these models. It's just a kind of a cool way to go about it. And I started to get into it because the shop wasn't buying a 3D printer, and I go, I can't let this technology get away from me. I'm still too young. By the time I retire, every shop will have a 3D printer in it. So
Yeah, it's something I need to purchase. I need to get on the 3D printer bandwagon, and like you said, you can make shift knobs and all sorts of stuff. So I need to see what that's all about.
So let's take this back to hand tools and get it out of the tech. Sometimes
Yeah, yeah. I
we're
mean,
here. I am over teching things for some crazy reason. Let's
Yeah, you can't go wrong with high quality hand tools. And I know you can go buy this what people call the same thing at Harbor Freight or Lowe's or Home Depot or anything like that. But it's not the same, people. It is not the same as a Snap-on or a Mac or a Cornwell or a Matco. It's not the same, you know. And I understand sometimes in your home shop it's hard to get your hands on Snap-on truck and on the Matco truck. But you know what? This stuff's on eBay. You don't have to buy it new. Go buy it used. And I'm telling you, a used Snap-on screwdriver is better than any new Craftsman screwdriver on the planet. I don't care. It's not just the grip; it's the way that it grips that screw. Especially a Phillips head. It's not the same. The ratchets are different. It's just spend a little more money and get higher quality hand tools, and you can thank me later because I was one of those guys. Oh, I'll just go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy me a socket set to take to the shop or whatever. But once I started buying, a little higher quality tools, it makes a ton of difference in in getting stuff put together and taken apart, and they just feel better, they work better, and they last longer. Period.
I will back you up on that one 100%. I'll say all my stuff at home is Craftsman Professional line, bought 15, maybe 20 years ago. And Craftsman was doing a decent tool then. Sears was still a viable company. That's all my stuff at home because it's comfortable on that, and I didn't want to put $10,000 into the stuff. Everything I have at work is all Snap-on. And I just got roasted on Facebook a couple of weeks ago because my Snap-on guy had this limited edition set of screwdrivers, 7 screwdrivers or something, with purple handles. And those that know me will know that I'm one of the first people. I'll buy just about anything Snap-on that's available with pink or with purple. And purple's kind of the new color, and they've eliminated pink. First of all, if you're in a commercial shop, nobody's going to steal it from you because you're the only guy in the shop with pink stuff. Yeah, you're going to get ribbing and jokes and things, but you know what? Never had one of my pink tools stolen. Never has come up missing. But I was going to buy this set of Snap-on screwdrivers, and I already had a set of Snap-on screwdrivers, and I have a second set of Snap-on screwdrivers. One's for disassembly, one's for reassembly for interiors and stuff. Because I don't want it to risk getting grease or having a slightly damaged tip or something when I'm reassembling, chrome, pieces that I've sent out to be chrome plated or nickel plated or, leather or something, and the screwdriver slipping out. And so it's something I learned when I was at McPherson, that I have a assembly set of screwdrivers and I have a disassembly set of screwdrivers. But I was going to buy these things at $215, and people couldn't believe that I was going to pay $215 for 7 screwdrivers. I got a Cobalt set I bought to kind of keep in my knockaround tool stuff, and I think I paid $30 or $39 at a Christmas special and got 47 screwdrivers. But the difference is, like Will said, the Snap-on stuff, it fits the screw head. A number 2 Phillips fits a number 2 Phillips screw. If you're doing the wrenches, a 10 millimeter Snap-on wrench fits a 10 millimeter bolt precisely. There's no give. There's no, sometimes you fight to get it on a 10 millimeter bolt because if the plating's too thick or something, because it's precisely what a 10 millimeter bolt should be. And, the warranty's nice. They're comfortable. If you've got something in your hand and you use it all day long, it makes sense. And I was getting ribbed by some of my friends, and I'll even say I was even getting ribbed by my girlfriend that I'm going to pay $200 and some for screwdrivers. And I suggested to her, because she wanted, and I'm going to get in trouble for this, but Fortunately, I think we have a solid relationship. I suggested, because she needs a new desk chair at work, I said, well, why don't you just go to Walmart and get a desk chair? You can pick them up for $29, $39 there. Well, they're uncomfortable. I want one from Staples. It's $300. What's the difference? I can get a $30 set of screwdrivers that's going to break and wear out and is uncomfortable, or I can get a $300 set of screwdrivers that's comfortable that I'm going to use all day long. She's going to use that desk chair, and I have no problem with her spending $300 on a desk chair because it's comfortable and it's needed. It's something that makes your life easier at work, and none of us really want to be at work. So there's kind of my justification for everybody going, I can buy it cheaper. Think to your job, and like I said, here's a desk chair. You can go buy one at Walmart for $30. You can go to Staples, or you can get a really nice, comfortable one for $250 or $300. If you're a hairdresser, I can go to Office Max and get a pair of scissors. I can get 3 pairs of scissors for $12. But a friend of mine is a hairstylist. She just paid $575 for a pair of scissors. Who do you want cutting your hair? The person with the $5 pair of scissors, or the person with the $600 pair of razor sharp scissors that are designed for the exact task? So I'll argue all day long and defend all day long the prices Snap-on charges, and don't finance your paycheck. Don't make $400 a week and have to give $300 a week to the Snap-on guy. When I started Snap-on, I had a lot of Craftsman stuff in my toolkit, and I started with a $3,000 set, and I think I made a $50 or $100 every 2-week payment on the thing. So, and I eventually got it paid off. And once I got it paid off, then I could buy another tool and another tool. And, I've been at this for 20 years, and there's still 1 or 2 Craftsman tools or Husky tools or, little off-brand stuff you'll find in my toolbox. But you'll also find some Snap-on stuff I've never opened because I'm just waiting for the day to use it. So
I can't believe I hadn't forgot or said anything about this earlier. But hammers and dollies. Don't go buy cheap ass Harbor Freight hammers and dollies. And if you're doing any type of sheet metal work anywhere, you need a good set of hammers and dollies. Snap-on makes really good hammers and dollies. Matco makes really good hammers and dollies. But the thing that I've kind of been doing here lately is I've got all the new stuff. I've got just about every hammer Martin makes, every hammer Snap-on makes, every hammer Matco makes, and I've even got some that that I bought when I first got into this that they don't make anymore. But I've been buying a lot of vintage hammers. Really hadn't been buying vintage dollies because pretty much all the new dollies match most of the vintage dollies. But I've been out and bid a lot of people on eBay in the last couple of months on vintage hammers. I kind of have a little bit of a collection of hammers and dollies going, and believe it or not, we use them. They make so many different shapes of hammers and dollies. But start off with just a good Matco or Snap-on kit. Personally, I think Matco has a little edge on Snap-on when it comes to hammers and dollies. But they both make really good stuff. Martin makes really good stuff. There's a couple other companies out there that are making some really nice hammers and dollies, but get you a good set of hammers and dollies. They're not cheap, but they're going to last you a long time. They're true. They're not, the faces aren't all crazy shaped and you have to work on them as soon as you get them. The dollies are nice and smooth and polished. And that's the key to a good hammer and dolly. And they're balanced, they're not top heavy or anything like that. So Um, get you a good set of hammers and dollies.
Well, I think we've spent enough of the listeners' money. um,
yeah, yeah, we've only spent about $100,000 in tools minus the CNC machine.
but hammers and dollies, it's one of those funny things. It's a little bit of metallurgy when you get into it. You want to make sure, and I think it's a safety thing. You want to make sure you're buying reputable tools when you're basically slamming steel against steel. And go ahead and watch the episode of Mythbusters where don't strike a hammerhead with a hammerhead or anything like that. You want to make sure the tool that you're using isn't going to crack or create a spark or chip off or mushroom that's some of the differences between using, I'm surprised Harbor Freight doesn't sue more, but Harbor Freight stuff, or maybe even some of the stuff from, Northern Tool, or just, is it Clark in England that I think is the same thing. If you get what you pay for, and if you're going to do it once, you might get away with it, but when you're buying something that's polished and everything's rounded, there's no sharp edges to it, you're going to get it's going to be easier and more enjoyable to work with. Sometimes this stuff is fun if you have the right tool. If you don't have the right tool, it's an absolute nightmare.
To me, Harbor Freight's not a tool store. Harbor Freight's where I go buy moving blankets. Okay, I mean,
I'll agree. I will go to Harbor Freight, and if I'm not sure I'm going to use a tool, or I only need it for one thing, I might go spend the $15 or $20 at Harbor Freight. But the moment that tool breaks, I don't go buy another Harbor Freight one. I go buy a name brand one, because obviously I've either used it too hard or I've used it enough that it justifies buying the real one. And I guess there's very few things that I do buy at Harbor Freight anymore, other than, like Will said, moving blankets or furniture dollies or plastic storage cabinets. They're pretty good at plastic storage cabinets.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll give Harbor Freight this right here. You don't have to go spend $15,000 on a toolbox. Go buy a U.S. General at Harbor Freight for $1,000. The toolbox at a home shop, and even in a professional shop, your toolbox is not going to make you any money. What's inside the toolbox is what counts. Brian, from my Snap-on guy, I know he's going to hate me if he listens to it, but it's the truth. Don't get me wrong, I do have a Snap-on toolbox, but and I tell all of my guys that, I'm like, invest your money in what you use, not in where it sits. And you don't have to have that $20,000 toolbox. They do hold their value, though, if you do buy one.
I think I'm going to leave the toolboxes alone. I thought about it for a few minutes, but
I was waiting on a good smart-ass reply.
I work with a guy, former NASCAR driver. That's what he has for toolboxes at home, and it's right. He's got U.S. Generals from Harbor Freight. The stuff inside of them, like I said, a Snap-on wrench set will buy that cabinet. But if you're in a shop, yeah, it looks pretty. It looks nice. Your toolbox doesn't roam around most shops. If you're in a dealership, if you're in a repair shop, you usually get a bay and it doesn't move. As long as the doors open and close, splurge for the ball bearing stuff. But
yeah, definitely
Will's 100% right. The wrench makes you money. The screwdriver makes you money. And that's why you're buying the Snap-on and Mac and Matco and Cornwell, because that's making you money. And if that screwdriver breaks, yeah, great. Craftsman's got a lifetime warranty. Husky's got a lifetime warranty, but I got to go to the store and get it. Granted, if it breaks and it's a Snap-on or whatever, I got to wait for this tool guy to get there in a week. But the odds of that Snap-on tool breaking are you got a lot less chance of that Snap-on tool breaking than you do of something from Harbor Freight or Sears or local, Stanley tool from Walmart, whatever. And when it comes down to in the professional shop, that's how we get paid, especially if you're flat rate. You need a tool to do the job as fast as you can, because that's how you're turning them. You're getting paid by the hour in the street rod shops and that. But when your boss is billing out $70 or $100 an hour, you figure it's over $1 a minute for your time. You owe it to the client to get that screw in or get that job done as fast as you can. If you don't feel that way, to be honest, you have no business restoring or building street rods. It's kind of that, that personal thing. And with that and that preaching, I think I'm going to call it an evening. Like I said, we've spent a bunch of your money. We've given you some food for thought. We've hopefully provided those of you with the Snap-on fetish, Cornwall fetish, etc., some good arguments why you're spending your money that way. And if you're looking for any 3D printer advice or whatever, just go ahead and let us know. Like I say, shoot us an email at nodrivinggloves@gmail.com. Look us up on Facebook or Instagram and shoot us a message there. And I'll say by the time this podcast released, the website should be changed. It's not going to be as pretty as it was before, but all the episodes will be on the website the moment they release to Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Stitcher, all of those. It will also post to the website automatically. So if you want to tell a friend or something to listen to this podcast that doesn't necessarily understand it on their smartphone and that, send them to nodrivinggloves.com. And the episodes will be there. That website will get built up over the next couple of months. It's one of the side projects I've been doing, but I'm at a point where hosting's changing. So we've got to make the little bit more basic website live, but I think it should help you be able to spread the word about the podcast. Did you have anything else to add, Will, or did I just totally end the show on a good note?
It's over.
Then I'm out of here. Everybody have a good night.
Later.
And hopefully Derek will be able to join us again next week.